The night was electric. The grand hall of the luxury hotel in downtown Beijing shimmered with golden lights, the chandeliers reflecting the glitter of designer gowns and the flash of paparazzi cameras. It was the night everyone had been talking about for months, the prestigious Golden Magnolia Awards, a career-defining evening where actors, directors, and producers gathered to celebrate the best of Chinese entertainment. Xu Kai was one of the main highlights of the evening. He wasn't just nominated for Best Actor, he was also scheduled to present an award with none other than Tan Songyun, a pairing that had been trending online ever since the announcement. Fans were already buzzing about what the two might say to each other on stage. The atmosphere was a mix of excitement, curiosity, and just the right amount of gossip. Backstage, Xu Kai was dressed in an immaculately tailored black suit, his hair perfectly styled, his calm demeanor masking the nervous anticipation in his eyes. Tan Songyun stood a few meters away, in a breathtaking emerald gown that shimmered like glass under the spotlight. She was scrolling through her phone, occasionally glancing up at him, as if rehearsing the words she would say once they stepped on stage together. Then it happened. Xu Kai's phone buzzed in his pocket. He didn't think much of it at first, probably just a last-minute confirmation from his manager or a fan message that somehow slipped through. But when he pulled out the phone and saw the caller ID, his heart skipped. The name was hidden behind a simple label, private number. Something in his chest tightened. He hesitated, then stepped into the shadowy corner of the backstage hallway, away from the curious eyes of assistants and camera crews. "Hello," he said quietly, trying not to attract attention. What came from the other side was not a voice of joy or casual conversation. It was urgent, low, and almost trembling. Xu Kai's expression instantly shifted from calm to alert. His free hand gripped the edge of a curtain as if to steady himself. "You can't be here tomorrow," the voice said. "They're coming for you tonight." It was a phrase so cryptic and chilling that for a moment, Xu Kai didn't know how to respond. "Who is this? What do you mean?" he whispered sharply, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. There was no answer. Just the faint sound of hurried breathing before the line went dead. The weight of the moment crashed down on him. He tried to shake it off, maybe it was a prank, maybe someone was just trying to get in his head before the big night. But deep inside, a feeling he couldn't ignore told him that this wasn't just a random call. This was real. Minutes later, Tan Songyun approached him with a soft smile. "Ready?" she asked, adjusting her gown slightly. Xu Kai tried to smile back, but it was tight, almost forced. "Yeah, just give me a second." But there was no second to be had. His phone buzzed again, this time, it wasn't a call. It was a text message from an unknown number. 4 words, "Leave now. Trust me." Something inside him snapped into decision mode. Without another word, Xu Kai handed his microphone back to a stunned stage assistant, grabbed his coat, and headed toward the back exit of the venue. The murmurs started immediately. Staff members exchanged confused glances. A couple of journalists in the hallway tried to call out his name, but he didn't stop. Tan Songyun saw him heading toward the door and quickly moved after him, her heels clicking sharply against the polished floor. "Xu Kai, where are you going? We're on in less than 5 minutes." He paused for just a moment, his back to her, his shoulders tense. "I'm sorry, Songyun," he said softly, without turning around. "I can't explain now." And then he was gone, disappearing into the cold night air before she could say another word. Inside the grand hall, confusion erupted. The event organizers scrambled to adjust the program. Tan Songyun was left standing backstage, still holding her cue card, her mind racing with questions. Meanwhile, Xu Kai's black car sped through the city streets. His driver glanced at him in the rearview mirror, sensing the urgency. "Where to, sir?" Xu Kai hesitated, then gave an address that made even his driver raise an eyebrow. It was an old part of Beijing, far from the glitz and glamour of the award ceremony, a place few knew he even had a connection to. As the car weaved through narrow alleyways, Xu Kai's phone buzzed again. This time, the message wasn't a warning. It was a photo. It showed the back of Tan Songyun's gown. She was still backstage, looking around as if searching for him. The caption read, "She's in danger too." A cold shiver ran down his spine. Whoever was sending these messages wasn't just targeting him, they had eyes on Tan Songyun as well. When the car stopped, Shu Kai stepped out into the dim light of a street lamp. An old building stood before him, its windows dark except for a faint glow on the third floor. He took a deep breath and climbed the creaky stairs. Inside, an elderly man sat at a small table, flipping through a stack of worn-out photographs. Without looking up, the man spoke in a gravelly voice. "You shouldn't have answered that call." Shu Kai froze. "You know about it." The man finally looked up, his eyes clouded but sharp. "They've been watching you for months. Tonight was their move. If you'd stayed," he let the sentence trail off, but the implication was clear. Shu Kai's mind was a storm. He wanted to go back, to protect Tan Songyun, but every instinct told him that walking back into that hotel could mean disaster. The man handed him a small, black envelope. "This will explain everything. But you need to decide right now, save her or save yourself." Back at the Golden Magnolia Awards, Tan Songyun's unease grew. She had tried calling Shu Kai multiple times, but each call went straight to voicemail. As the award presentations continued without him, she plastered on a professional smile for the cameras, but inside, worry gnawed at her. It wasn't until she stepped outside during a break that she noticed a black car parked across the street. The window rolled down slightly, and a hand, unmistakably Shu Kai's, gestured for her to get in. Her first instinct was to refuse, but something about the look in his eyes told her this wasn't a casual request. She glanced around, then hurried toward the car. The moment she got in, the car pulled away. "Shu Kai, what on earth is going on?" she demanded. He handed her the black envelope. "Read it. And don't panic." Inside was a series of photographs and documents that made her blood run cold. Images of the two of them taken in private moments, notes about their schedules, even recordings of conversations they didn't know anyone had overheard. "They were going to release all of this tonight," Shu Kai said, his voice low. "Not just to ruin us professionally, but to hurt us personally." Tan Songyun's hands trembled as she flipped through the pages. "But why?" "I don't know yet," he admitted. "But whoever's behind this, they're powerful. And they don't care who gets caught in the crossfire." The car drove into the night, leaving behind the glittering lights of the award show and the storm of unanswered questions. Neither of them knew where this road would take them, only that everything had changed in the span of one midnight phone call. But one thing was certain, they couldn't go back. Not yet. And maybe, not ever. The moment Shu Kai stepped into the shadowed corner of the backstage hallway, the world around him seemed to dim. The bustling chatter of assistants, the hum of the crowd beyond the velvet curtains, even the music from the grand hall, all of it faded into a distant murmur as the phone pressed cold against his ear. "Hello." His voice was barely a whisper. There was a pause. A faint crackle of static. Then, a voice that was neither hurried nor calm, just haunting. "You have 5 minutes to decide," it said. Shu Kai straightened, his heartbeat drumming loud in his ears. "Who is this?" The voice ignored his question. "If you step on that stage tonight, it will be your last appearance." He froze. The words weren't a threat in the usual sense, they felt heavier, sharper, almost like a sentence handed down by someone who already knew the ending of a story he hadn't yet lived. "I think you have the wrong," he began, but the voice cut him off. "Don't pretend you don't know what this is about. They're watching you. Right now." Shu Kai's gaze darted toward the stage curtain. Beyond it, spotlights swept across the room, searching for the next moment of glamour. But here, in the dim backstage shadows, he felt a different kind of spotlight, one he couldn't see, but could feel burning into him. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked, his voice low and edged with suspicion. "Because you still have a chance to walk away." The line went dead. For a second, Shu Kai just stood there, phone still pressed to his ear, staring at the floor as though the answer might be hiding in the patterned carpet. His mind raced. A prank? A rival actor's desperate attempt to rattle him? Or something else entirely? His pulse didn't feel like it was responding to a prank. It felt like danger. From the corner of his eye, he saw Tan Songyun adjusting her gown, glancing toward him as if sensing something was off. She tilted her head slightly, her brows knitting together. She didn't say anything, but that look, soft concern, unspoken questions almost broke through his haze. Then his phone buzzed again. This time, no voice. Just a text. 4 words. Leave now. Trust me. He swallowed hard, looking at the text again and again, as if staring at it long enough might make it disappear. But it didn't. A strange awareness settled over him. Every sound backstage suddenly felt amplified, the rustle of dresses, the clicking of heels, the creak of the curtain rods. He could almost hear the sound of someone breathing too close to the corner where the shadows met the light. An assistant approached with a bright smile. "Shukai, you're on in 3 minutes." He nodded absently, but his hand had already slipped into his pocket, gripping the phone like a lifeline. Tan Songyun took a step toward him. "Hey, you okay? You look pale." "I'm fine," he lied, forcing a quick smile. "Just need some air." But even as he said it, he knew he wouldn't be coming back. He turned, slipping past the wardrobe racks, moving toward the service hallway where deliveries were brought in. His steps were fast, but not frantic. He didn't want to draw attention. Every few seconds, he glanced over his shoulder, half expecting someone to follow. And then, just as he reached the back exit, his phone buzzed a 3rd time. Another text. This one made his breath catch. "They'll use her to get to you." The air in his lungs turned cold. There was no name, no picture, but he didn't need it. Her could only mean one person in this building who mattered enough for such a threat, Tan Songyun. He spun around, torn between running back to warn her and following the invisible path this mysterious caller was trying to lead him down. A sudden noise, footsteps rushing down the hall, snapped him into action. Without thinking, he pushed open the door, stepping into the biting chill of the night. The street behind the venue was quiet, almost too quiet, lit only by a single flickering lamp. A black car idled near the curb. The rear window slid down just enough for a pair of eyes to meet his eyes. He recognized immediately. It wasn't Tan Songyun. It was a man he hadn't seen in over 3 years. "Get in," the man said, his tone as steady as a stone dropped in deep water. "Unless you want the night to end very badly for both of you." Shukai hesitated, his mind screaming with questions, but something in the man's expression, calm yet urgent, told him this wasn't the time to argue. As the car door shut behind him, the world outside disappeared. The hum of the engine filled the silence, broken only by the low, controlled voice of the driver. "They're already inside the building." "Who is?" Shukai demanded. "The people you've been avoiding for months." "I haven't been." "Yes, you have. Every time you take a different route home. Every time you cancel a public appearance at the last second. Every time you ignore a certain number when it calls. You've been avoiding them. And tonight, they decided they're done waiting." Shukai's grip on the leather seat tightened. "And Tan Songyun. They know she's connected to you now. That's enough to make her a target." For the first time in his career, Shukai didn't care about an award, a red carpet, or headlines. There was only one thought in his head, getting to her before anyone else did. But even as he thought it, he realized the cruel truth. She was already surrounded by cameras, strangers, and dozens of exits he couldn't control. Back at the awards, Tan Songyun checked her phone between rehearsals, frowning at the unanswered messages she'd sent him. She glanced toward the backstage hallway again, feeling the strange weight of absence where he had been just minutes ago. Somewhere, deep in her gut, she knew something had gone very, very wrong. And out in the cold night, Shukai was about to find out just how much worse it could get. Stay tuned until the end, and don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more jaw-dropping celebrity drama stories.